Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us again for the last part of our day. Online viewers, thank you for staying with us. I know you're still quite a few of you online, so thank you very much. To finish the official part of our day, we will now hear a sector representative view on satellite-based localization in ERTMS. I invite Mr. Jo de Boschere, head of ERTMS unit at the European Agency for Railways, to come on stage. Jo has an extensive experience in ETCS and comes from the Belgian Railways. Jo, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I think we have a difficult task to explain you things that are not yet been said, but we will do our best. A little bit on the title, I would say the last words from game changer to reality. So I suppose, or I propose that we focus on that, how to come to reality and how also from the perspective of the representative organizations, how they see reality. But before we go into the discussion and moderation, I would like to call Maria Jose Garcia on the stage. She will give us a short, we named it impulse speech. Maybe it's a repetition of things we already heard, but to have it clear in your mind. So Maria Jose, please.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for being here. Yes, I was asked to do or to give an impulse speech. I do not know very well what is that, but I will try it anyway. And I will try not to be very repetitive because most of the things I have prepared have already been said, for example, by Mr. Doppelbauer or some other speakers in the room, of course. So I will try to keep it brief. The truth is that for almost 20 years, the rail sector has been working in trying to introduce satellite positioning in ETCS domain, but the truth is that for the moment, we do not have tangible results, apart from some products and some particular implementations that have been mentioned, but the truth is that we do not have yet a standardized solution. Why is that? This is a reflection we should make in the sector, maybe. Is it because the technical solutions are not matured yet, for example, in terms of safety levels and so? Is it because the sector has not reached a common agreed solution for the technical solution for architecture and so? Are there legislative barriers yet and regulatory barriers yet? I remember that talking about satellites in railways in the beginning was very exciting, but now the time has come to do the job, to finish it, and to come a step forward in order to bring the results to the market. Of course, if we want to make this happen, satellite positioning have to be introduced in future TSIs, as has been recalled here before, and for that, of course, we must work all together to achieve this famous common agreed solution among all the stakeholders. This is paramount to achieve the introduction in future TSIs. So I'm happy to hear that somehow you will convert or you are trying to, so that's very good news. But still, we have many questions to tackle and many right decisions to take in an acceptable time frame, which we have a tight schedule ahead of us. Some of those questions have already been mentioned here, which are the technological approaches we have. Can we come up with a common solution? Are those performances, which are very important, achievable or not by the current solutions? Do we need more innovation for that? Which are the new interoperable requirements, the new interfaces? How can we introduce eGNSS services as EGNOS service in the solution? What does it mean from a technical perspective, but also from a regulatory perspective for us? The benefits are clear for the sector, but we have learned that we have to balance the benefits and costs between the different actors. And a very important question for us, can we make this change compatible with the current ETCS system as far as possible? Because this will save us a lot of trouble in terms of retrofitting migrations and so on. So this is a desirable, very desirable thing to have. So, as you can see, we have still work to do in the coming years, tight schedule. But the good news is, for me, is that we have the means in place for that, because we have this wonderful tool that is EU Rail System Pillar and Innovation Pillar that hopefully will bring the answers to all those questions and will demonstrate all those things. We have also the agencies as EUSPA, ourselves, ERA, also ESA, and of course DG Move and DG Defis committed to that objective. So I would say that now is the moment. Let's do it.
Thank you very much, Maria José. For the introduction of the panel, I will ask them to introduce themselves, but I think if you, probably a lot of them you already know, we have a really good mix. We have industry on board, we have railway undertakers on board, we have infra managers, we have the users group, who also helps on defining elements for the TSI. So I think it's going to be really interesting to hear their views on a lot of things that have been shared by now. So what I would ask to you, to each of you, starting with Flip, is shortly introduce your organization and then just tell us, do you think future is bright for integration of satellite in ERTMS?
Well, good afternoon to all of you, and I would like to thank the invitation which has been made by ERA and the other agencies to UNIFE. Just a few words. UNIFE represents the rail supply industry. We have 119 members. A lot of members are working on signaling topics, so that's why it's important for me to be here. I just want to say that I was very happy to hear that Madame van der Leyen today in her speech spoke about the competitiveness of the industry. It has been said by Esbieta, who represents the cabinet of Madame Balean. And for us, it is, of course, a very strong message, and how to export our products is also one of the most important things. On our side, you have to know that suppliers have been working since long and will continue working on satellite positioning approaches and applications, and we know that it's an important technology for railways. EGNSS satellite technology has already been identified as one of the game changer technologies of the ERTMS and command and control system evolution, aiming at saving investments and operational costs. And this is a very important thing, how to reduce the operational costs. So just quickly, I would like to say that in the last year in Horizon projects, there's been STARS, ERSA, GCC, and CLUG. They have investigated the potential and limitations of the use of EGNSS satellite technology in the rail sector through the experimentation along railway lines in different locations, concluding that there are still barriers preventing a large adoption of EGNSS, such as requiring massive data acquisition and processing to achieve the high level of confidence when operating in a complex rail environment. So today, you know that UNIFE is involved in 2 ongoing rail projects dealing with satellite positioning. Have RailGap, where RFI is the project manager, and CLUG too. But we already had a presentation from one of my colleagues of UNIFE on this topic. There's just one thing that I would like to add before I finish my short presentation, is that there are some words which have not been used during this meeting and not very much used, is the word interoperability, that it's also an important thing, and the harmonization of operational rules. I think if we want to reduce the cost, if you want to have a system which will work, and we have to decide between rail balises or odometry, we need to improve in terms of interoperability and harmonization of operational rules, and we will certainly have the opportunity to come back on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Flip. Carol?
Thank you, Jo. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carole Kuhn. I'm the Secretary General of the Association of European Rail Rolling Stock Lessors. So my members are leasing companies. The association has been created in 2021. We have now 10 members. And maybe a few words about what is a leasing company. They are acquiring new rolling stock or upgrading existing ones to make it available to all interested railway undertakings. It means that they play a key role in the competition. They are a kind of catalyst of competition because 75% of their customers are new entrants on the railway market. They also ensure maintenance and mostly offer a full service fleet and maintenance management. And they consider themselves as enablers of deployment of new technologies. 65% of their fleet is cross-border, 64 is electric locomotive, and 40% of the fleet is equipped with ETCS, which is more than the average. So our goal is to promote interoperable and safe rolling stock in Europe, and to contribute throughout dialogue to strengthen the competitiveness of rail transport. To be very honest, I discussed for the first time the topic of today last week, Friday, with my members, and they gave me some very concrete messages to share with you, what I will do later. But to answer briefly, is the future bright? We don't know at all, because we don't know the business case, and somebody has to pay for an implementation of a new technology. And I have heard that it's clear that the business case for the rolling stock owners is not good. So we are not so excited, I would say. And I would even say that my members have a dream, like Martin Luther King. They have a dream, and this dream is a technological moratorium. They have equipped their locomotives 12 years ago with ETCS. They have made 2 upgrades. Now they are equipping the loco with baseline 3.6, and baseline 4 is introduced, and now we are talking about satellite. So I repeat, we have a dream, technological moratorium. Why not? Maybe it could be a good idea for the growth of the rail market share.
Thank you, Carole. Alberto, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Alberto Mazzola, representing the Community of European Railways. In synthesis, we are representing many railway companies, infrastructure managers, more than 90% of passenger traffic, more than 80% of freight traffic, and more than 70% of infrastructures in Europe. I would like to start with the point on ERTMS. Before getting to satellite, ERTMS is very important for CER, and we are very pleased by the proposal of the Commission on the Trans-European Network on the deadlines 2030 and 2040 for deploying ERTMS on the core network and the extended core network and comprehensive network. We hope that these deadlines will survive the Council, and we would like the Spanish Presidency bring the same message to the Presidency in order that we can get a good agreement on ERTMS and the deadlines that we have into the TEN-T. ERTMS is an intermediate, I would say, point for us. Today, just to be very clear, we have a discussion many times on Joseph Doppelbauer on railways. Just to be clear, there is a lack of infrastructure. Infrastructure are, I would say, very limited in Europe. In many cases, capacity is over the real, what should be the capacity, what should bring. A lot of them need to be maintained, and we'll see closure in the next years in order to maintain properly the infrastructure, and new infrastructure are very limited. Let's say, with this situation, that's the negative message. It's impossible to achieve doubling high-speed traffic by 2030 and tripling by by 2050 or doubling freight traffic. So we need more infrastructure. The first point for us is digital capacity management. Good proposal for the Commission, but if we can get in 2025, it will be better than 2030. This goes the same for ERTMS, is the second step, where we will increase the capacity thanks to ERTMS, but then we will need also infrastructure. And we made a study together, Philippe and Eurotrade Joint Undertaking, where we show the benefit also on the investment that we will do if we develop an high-speed network connecting all capitals and major cities. So this is something that we need. ERTMS is part of this picture because it will improve capacity, what we have today, reliability, and I will say increase interoperability. Having said that, so we push very much for this. Let me say on satellite on a personal note, some of the room very few know, but in 2002 I promoted a project with the director of TEN-T at that time, Hilbrecht, to integrate Galileo and ERTMS. At that moment I was in the industry following both projects. The Commission took up the project, then one major supplier took the project and killed it, and saying that Balises are much better. And then for 10 years, we lost the point to go ahead. I think this is sometimes the difficulty we have, that of course there are different interests in this field, and it was clear even before. So we need to be able to manage the different interests to get, as I said, a system positive point. It's not always easy. I gave you an example, but I think it's important that our colleague from Switzerland, from SBB, was clear. I read the study on the savings that we can achieve with satellite. So we would like to see these savings. So this should not be an add-on. If you add on top of what we have today another thing that we need to pay, it's impossible that we are going to save money. So we need to reduce track circuits, axle counters. We need these things to come through. And we need to have somebody to take responsibility for this point. I will have other points, but I want to close on the point of innovation. We are very much in favor. So we need satellite, but FMCS, 6G, 7G, artificial intelligence. We need to look at all of these things. But then for railways, when we put this in practice, we need to have a plan. We cannot go on like this because I mean, it's impossible for us. We have a huge network, a legacy issue, and let me say what we are reflecting, project management has been very poor. And I think all here in the room agrees. Because if we are here after 25 years still discussing a 10% of ERTMS, it is clear that project management has been poor. We have ERA, CINEA, I would say Eurotrade Joint Undertaking. Member states will be tasked to achieve the 2030 and 2040 deadlines. What they will do, they will ask the infrastructure manager to deploy ERTMS. Based on the finances that the infrastructure manager will get, we will achieve the result that we get. So it's a big circle, but I will say we would like to see, and inside DG Move, a big unit dealing with the ERTMS. On Galileo, when the Commission launched Galileo, in 2000, they set up a unit, they became an agency, and we have the director of the agency here. Galileo is smaller than ERTMS. It's probably 20% in terms of cost. Here we are discussing something that is 5 times bigger in terms of investment, but nobody is responsible. And we have a lot of difficulties in order to get. I think taking the lesson that what we have and keeping each one the responsibility is not easy, I agree. When we discussed the technical pillar, to give the responsibility to the ERA was not easy on this field, but I think if we have somebody taking care on project management and covering all the aspects, including infrastructure managers, member states, will be a big advantage. Otherwise, it's very difficult. I think somebody else in the room is going to invest in ERTMS in this moment and is looking at 2025, 2030, and they are reflecting when FRMCS is coming. Should I invest? Should I wait? If satellite is becoming something 2030 real, what should I do today? So we need to be able to manage all these things. Otherwise, investments are delayed if they are available. And if they are not available, we need to have somebody in charge to go to member state and say, look, you need to invest because you are not delivering on deploying ERTMS on this thing. So I would say this is a key point that we are able to properly manage the evolution. Any industrial system requires this. Even in telecom, when they move from 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, they have a proper management. They are able to safeguard the past investment, looking forward. We need also here to have a system that is protecting the investment we do and forward-looking. Let's say we have a good trust, so satellite is something that will bring results if done properly, but we need also to be a step forward. So to have someone, and in my opinion should be the European Commission, no member state, it will be a commission, it's the only body that can do this. And on savings, you need to change a bit the regulation. For railway package, unbundled a lot of things. Now, if you have advantages in infrastructure managers, how do you pass them to railway undertaking? We need to have some regulation that makes these things possible. In the US, this is automatic. You save an infrastructure, it's an integrated company, and the benefit go to the railway undertaking. So they do it. Here we have infrastructure manager, undertaking, entity in charge of maintenance. I don't want to add all the list that are involved in these things. We need to find a way that this benefit become a system benefit. I was a bit long, sorry for this, but ERTMS is very dear to us, and getting back to the beginning, thank you for the proposal on TEN-T. This was due, but I think it's a very good one, and I think we'll push a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you, Alberto. Bardo?
What can I say? I will try to say something different, still intelligent. Okay, I'm Bardo Schettini, I'm the Director of Operation AEM, so the European Infrastructure Manager Organization. So we are kind of spin-off of the liberalization process within the European Union, so since 1972. And we represent the independent infrastructure managers that we have in Europe. ADIF is one of those, for instance. Yes, well, definitely, I mean, when we talk about the ERTMS, I'm not going to repeat what Alberto said. Of course, we are also, our members are also, very much into it. There is a strong support, but at the same time, of course, we are all aware of the challenge that we are facing. Generally speaking, again, I will not go into details because we have already discussed it. Now, optimism, I think it's a always good strategy when we talk about innovation, because if we are not optimistic, then it's difficult to imagine a better future. So I think that it's a natural way of thinking, which everybody, I think, in this room share, and we do also share. Our members do also share it. Having said that, of course, we cannot hide behind just one finger all the problems. Because there are really many challenges that we are facing, not only in the deployment of ERTMS, the way that we all know, but also how to link the ERTMS with the new technologies. I mean, here we are discussing about satellite position. You mentioned FMCS, it's another one. So there are different areas where actually, we are facing all the sector, not only infrastructure managers, lots of challenges. Now here, in these particular cases, if we want to broaden a little bit the picture behind the, let's say, the enthusiastic I would say environment that I've seen here, and definitely, I mean, from a technical perspective, we do all see the incredible progress that has been made during the last few years. But if we broaden a little bit the perspective, then we see that beyond the technology challenges still are ahead of all of those of you who are working this. We have regulatory challenges. I mean, it's not just putting some, let's say, specification to the TSI that we solve the issue, because there are also legal aspects that will have to be followed, legislative aspects as well that needs to be tackled by the European Commission. When I say legal, for instance, now we are getting to an area. It's not the only one, but it's an area where we're going to have multiple stakeholders also beyond the railway sector, satellite operators. So in terms of liabilities, for instance, it's something that this goes beyond the pure technological challenges. We need to have a political support And that is another aspect that, it has to be put also on the table. Because, despite, and the ERTMS somehow also is a mirror of all these difficulties, because despite the technological, let's say, success that we may achieve, if we do not have the governments, member states, the European Commission by definition, but the, let's say, mainly I would say member states, behind also, having a strategy, a vision on how to make better future for rail and how to invest, how to provide money to make sure that there is a plan of investment or transition to these new technologies, then we are stuck in the middle of nowhere. And this actually, the ERTMS experience, I think, also shows the difficulty that we are having there. So there are also other dimensions that we need to take into account that are also big challenges for us. But as I said, let's be optimistic. Huh? So this is what I wanted to say.
Thanks, Bardo. Michel?
If you are in the railway sector, in this room, and you have not heard and do not know what the ERTMS users group is, you've got really a serious problem. So I'm not going to explain too much about the users group. www.ertms.be, and you can find all the information you want, including this cost-benefit analysis which Daniel was referring to. So I can only invite you to do that, etc. We are more a technically focused organization, so I only play a very modest role over here. For your information, we have agreed with CER and EIM on the right-hand side, and I trust that also Earl and the other railway representative organizations are very happy with that, that we actually try to help them with the technical discussions related to CCS, command control and signaling, and that of course also includes the future use of satellite technology. So that is in a nutshell what the users group does. My name is Michel Russen, as you know. I am the managing director of the users group. If you ask me what I do nowadays, I can tell you I only do one thing. That is, I'm involved in the contract management for the system pillar. So I am kind of the counterpart of Giorgio, or better actually Ian Conlon, acting on behalf of a system pillar consortium who is supposed to do all the technical work for the system pillar. So I'm not the expert. If you come back in later on and ask me some questions about satellite positioning, I am not really the expert. But fortunately for you, I brought my technical director with me, who is very well informed about these things, Gabriele Ridolfi. He is in the back of the room. So if you have that kind of questions, please go to Gabriele, and he can tell you everything about this cost-benefit analysis and all the other things you would like to know about satellite technology. Nevertheless, to say a couple of words, I think, Daniel, we met already from the beginning that you started in EUSPA to approach the railway sector about satellites, so that's 7-8 years ago, I think. So there's a long time that already the users group actually is actively participating in the discussions and trying to help to see on whether or not satellite technology can play a useful role for command control and signaling. And we still see that. Is the future bright? Yes, but it depends a little bit. I think that was also already mentioned a little bit. We are looking, of course, for a reduction of assets. That is great if we can achieve that, because then we have less difficulties, I would say. We are also, of course, looking at alternative means for precise location, especially for these regional applications, because we know that it is too costly to do anything else. So yes, for sure we see good opportunities. Nevertheless, indeed, it was already mentioned by Daniel, it needs to be seen on, can you do that at a sufficiently safety level and at affordable costs? Because in the end, if you look at what the railways do, then we can have long discussions about it, but it's all about the P of performance or capacity, the R of reliability, the A of availability, the M of maintainability, and the S of safety and security. And all this at affordable costs. And we are not there yet, and especially we have these concerns, and this is why it does take some time before we have finalized that. Hopefully, Joseph, you are right, and we can actually include in the TSI 2027 the full set of specifications necessary for the suppliers to develop the products. And then yes, it could be that the first products will be available on the market by 2030, but ERTMS specifications, baseline 3, were ready in 2012. Yes, we upgraded them, etc. It took 7 years before the first products came to the market. A little bit longer than the 3 years. So hopefully, indeed, we can improve and we can bring the products sooner to the market. But that is not what I want to say. What I want to say is the deployment is miserable. So it's not the product which needs to be available. We also need to make the mechanisms to make sure that these products are then used and put in the vehicles and in the trackside. And that is just coming back to what Alberto and Bardo said. That has to do with the fact that it is not only about the technical system, but it is the combination of the fact that that there are other mechanisms also to be improved before you really have the full-fledged deployment of ERTMS and satellites. What is wished by Matthias Rutte, Marcin Wojcik, and so on and so forth. That is what we are looking for, but that is not the technical part. The technical part, I think we will manage. Thank you very much.
Many thanks. Can you close your mic? Yeah, Flip, you wanted to react?
Something, because I would like to say that I'm in line with what Alberto said concerning the deployment of ERTMS and the necessity to have an organization which will help for having this deployment to find the funding, because this is certainly one of the most important things. There's also the support that we need from the Spanish presidency on these 10 texts which are now on the table. And we have to know that the negotiation on the 10 Ts started a few months ago. And it seems that the ministers have not yet really opened the file of rail, because they are afraid to open our file, which shows how nervous they are when they are discussing about our sector. So that's also a thing that we have to know. The other thing I would like to say is that today we had very good news in the presentation which have been made on the fact that satellite positioning is part of Europe's rail joint undertaking activities, with the innovation pillar, with a flagship project to DATO coordinated by SNCF, and within the system pillar, which is absolutely essential for the vision we need to have in the next years for this. And I would like to say that this is really an opportunity for the sector, and say that to Giorgio, who is working almost on a full-time basis on a lot of topics deal with ERGU, but on this system pillar. And I think that if we work together on interoperable solution that could be implemented on European rail network in the future, we will make a lot of progress. And I think there is a real momentum coming from the industry, the operators and the infrastructure managers. Not a very easy task, but I think it's a good thing to know that satellite positioning is part of this program. So that's what I wanted to say.
Many thanks, Flip. So, Michel, I was a little bit wondered that technically you think there is no problem, so I will come back on that question. I was happily surprised when I saw the nice triangle with ERA on top of it. And you know, at ERA, we only take information from System Pillar, from UNISIG, from ERTMS user group, to be able to come to the specifications to be integrated in the next TSI. So today, how do you see the possibility to come to an agreement on the architecture, for example, in the system pillar, to be able to feed our working party to be ready? I already heard 2027, but probably we'll need some discussions on it, so maybe 26 or late 25, we should already discuss how to integrate it.
I'm not sure that I will be here in 2027 then, but... But I said it yesterday also in another gremium that it's always easy to talk about people if they are not in the room, so I'm going to talk about somebody else. What we need over here is decisions. The railways have to make up their mind. Sometimes also the suppliers have to make up their mind. I don't know how the suppliers organize themselves, but I can tell you for the railways it's not easy to get an agreement among ourselves. We need also the top of the triangle to make in the end the decisions. For technical work in ETCS, that is ERA, that is this triangle, the famous triangle. But we have a kind of the same situation in the work in EURail, in the system pillar. We have organized it similar. So we have, by the way, also the same good cooperation between the suppliers on the one side and the railways on one side on the technical level. But we have created this system pillar core group under the leadership of Ian Condon, who is actually moderating it, steering that in a bit of a similar way as that ERA does that for the EECT specifications. And I have full confidence that Ian, if I look at him, that's why I can talk about him because he's not here. Yeah? If you're there, then...
He's there.
Is he there? Yeah. Ah, okay. You ruined my plan. But I still continue. I have full confidence that we have to make firm decisions. And I think that Ian is the right guy to make sure that we will make these decisions. He has done that in the past, also in the ERTMS stakeholder platform. We need these kinds of people because the railways themselves will not solve it. The suppliers themselves will not solve it. So we need the core group and we need Ian. Thank you.
Thank you, Michel. Maybe to go further on this theme, what can the organizations do? Because I know that in ERGU it's individual members that are in it, but what can CER or EIM do to support what you just explained to come to decisions? So maybe Bardo first.
Okay. No, actually, it's in a way the EUROPE's is also a game changer for us. I mean, in terms of associations, because it's really, I would say, the first time where actually association gets into the world of research with an active role, at least EIM. Right? Maybe UNIFE was already more involved in the past, but definitely for infrastructure managers, it's really the first time. And in that sense, I think that we really believe that we can play a very pivotal role internally with all our members in order to make sure that we push for a systemic approach. And also we push for the alignment of our members, because of course there are also differences between the different infrastructure managers. There are different agendas, which is of course logic, but at the same time, you know, if we reach, let's say, the technical specification, the conclusion on a technical specification that is not shared, of the benefits of which are not shared by all the stakeholders, including all the infrastructure managers, when then we have to deploy it, you know, if some of them that will not use it, somehow we will have also failed because we are looking for interoperable solutions. So if there is no interoperability or the solution is not taken up by everybody, then you know we're halfway. So our role there is really to make sure that all our internal stakeholders are on the same page, and that of course will be instrumental also to ensure that the railway undertaking, the Europe's rail will deliver something that has really good chances to be successful.
Thank you, Bardo. Maybe Flip, do you also see the possibility in UNIFE to get to that alignment, or is it more difficult?
On our side, we have created a system pillar committee who is working and following very closely all the ongoing discussion and meeting with the CR, AIM from time to time to have a common position. But it's true that it happens that on some specific point, there are some debates, but I think there is really a good cooperation at this stage. And it's true that on our side, a lot of time is spent by our specialists on the system pillar, and it's really a very important topic for us for the future of our sector, but there is a real motivation on our side.
Thank you. Carol?
Yes, indeed, for us, Europe's rail is also a game changer, of course, and we are very happy to be part of the System Pillar steering group. It's a game changer because all the stakeholders are involved. And in the steering group, when we will discuss this point, I will get back with my point. We need, I think, a strong impact assessment before taking any decision regarding Satellite4Rail.
On the same point, I would say beyond the system pillar, TSI are important for us, because at the moment that you decide that this will be the technical solution that you are going to implement. So before, I think we are open to every innovation research. We should search everything, artificial intelligence, 7G, everything. But at a certain moment, you come to a point where you say, I'm going to implement this or not. And you define a TSI where you will go to implement this. Let's say that inside many of our CEOs, when they take a decision like this, is a very long-term decision. So you engage yourself to move all your system to ERTMS, and maybe like in Spain, you start on 3.0D, then it comes to 3.0, and you ask yourself, am I compatible or not? Maybe not. Is all my investment scrapped? Is the problem that you were also raising? So the moratorium, because you have a doubt that you are, I would say, losing all the money you do. I think this is a point that we need to address, we have not addressed so far, unfortunately. So the migration and how safeguarding the investment we do. We are talking major investments. The ones who are investing today in 2032 will still have their investment valid, or they need to change again and to upgrade and to change maybe and lose a lot of investment. So this is a point where the migration need to be, I would say, in my opinion, better reflected. And it's more not on research. It's exactly when you go into site and when you go in deployment. And final point is the finance also, because I think at the end all this stays together if we get the finance in order to do these things. And these two things should go together, because if member states decide to take a decision on 10T, on TSI, we need to find coherence, then the financing will follow on what we achieve. But on the point of stability and how do you move from one version to the next, I think we need to have proper impact assessment stronger, and also really to be sure that we are not wasting what we did. The one who invested in ERTMS level 1 lost everything. So who started the first lost everything. I think from 230D we are saving what we have, but there is reflection. Now you have 3.0, and maybe when we have FLMCS, I don't know if we have 4.0, everybody is reflecting, what should I do? I wait, I go. So this is a key point that we need to deal, in my opinion.
Yeah, thanks. So it's about migration strategies and saving the investments that have been done. So if we look at that, maybe to come back on that, also as sector organizations, which members are pushing to have it implemented and by when, and then also to see if you come back to cost benefit, who will have the benefits. We already heard it, that only benefits are for infra managers apparently, and the costs are for railway undertakers, but it goes together, I think, with what Alberto just said, that we should find the balance between those, and if we want to introduce it in the legal framework, can we introduce it as an option? Should every vehicle in Europe be equipped with satellite, yes or no? So if I look at that, maybe look at Bordeaux, you see members that are really crying for satellite, they need it tomorrow or the day after tomorrow? Do we have to speed up? I think yes, but or for which applications? Is it for the whole network, only for regional lines? So I think there are a lot of elements that maybe we need to take into account before we can introduce it and introduce it on a smart way in the legal framework.
Okay, well, when we had in the past few months and few years, I mean, some discussions about satellite positioning, I would say that most of the members, they reflect what we have seen today. I mean, they are very much interested. Everybody understands let's say the potential advantages that we may have in terms of saving costs, in terms of improving capacity and traffic management. I mean, I'm not going to repeat what have been already said many times. On the other hand, there is a little bit of standstill situations because there have been studies, but what is not clear yet at least that I perceived in our internal discussion is, how is at the end of the day, I'm joining what you were saying before, I mean, how much money I'm going to save at the end of the day by introducing these technologies? Because, do I need to keep, for safety reasons, for instance, do I need to keep redundancy systems? How much? I mean, my territory is complex. I mean, where can I use it? Where cannot use it? These are very practical questions that they always turn into, okay, we have to invest in something of which we are not really so sure at the moment whether we can really get the benefit out of it. Even infrastructure managers, clearly for everyone, Undertaking is even more complex, maybe to have these discussions. But even also for infrastructure managers, not so straightforward as it may seem from a technical point of view. I come back also to to repeat what I said before in terms of also of strategy for investment, for let's say migrations into this new technology. So it's as I said, I mean, there is much interest, but still I have not seen such a enthusiasm to go forward and make an investment.
Yeah, but I think you pointed out the good elements that a lot of things need to be put on the table before we can, before your members will take the step and saying now this is the right moment, the good point. We have all elements to launch for certain lines in satellite-based ERTMS.
If I may, yes, indeed. I mean, I think that it's also this conference has a very good timing, and it's also very good timing. What is happening within Europe's rail, because now I think for what I've understood, I'm not an expert here, but for what I've understood, we are really in a phase where everybody, again, all the experts understand also the limitations on the use for rail of the satellite positioning. There are alternatives that could go along. I mean, the development of these technologies becomes enough mature to have a more, let's say, a better view on how we can use it in a way that is, let's say, that allows also cost saving. So it probably is, the real debate outside let's say, these research communities probably will start now, in a way.
Michel, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, maybe reacting on a couple of things, because also Alberto mentioned something again. Maybe it's cursing in the church, so you can be that I will not go out alive. But I'm inspired by what Martin said, that apparently now we are even able to think about scrapping old locomotives to make sure that we replace them with new locomotives to make sure that ERTMS deployment is increasing. Well, if you ask me, how can you reduce the costs for onboard units? Guess what? Take out level 1. And that is exactly why in the system pillar we talk always about radio-based ETCS. And it's completely in line with what is also said earlier. We want to take out Class B on the European level. It will take, of course, 20, 30, 40 years, but this is the way to go. So if you think about adding new technologies in the onboard and it's getting expensive, well, think about also taking some things out. And it will not happen tomorrow, but this is the way to go.
Yes, Flip.
Well, on my side, I just wanted to say that our members, they see the potential of satellite positioning in rail, and to clarify the most promising way forward, we just need to be aware about economical and operational consequences. But the message my members want me to pass is that to ensure a successful introduction on the market, we need to be clear about the implications of the specific approaches. And I come back to the topic of interoperability, that they say that interoperability between onboard and trackside is a key property and therefore a key requirement for a satellite positioning application and for an assessment criterion of the approaches. And they become relevant when trackside and onboard interaction are concerned. And of course, in that case, migration conditions have to be assessed as well. But globally speaking, I think there is interest, as you've seen on our members. It's at a different level, but what will happen during the discussions within the framework of the system pillar and the R2 data will be certainly very important for the way forward.
Thank you. Alberto?
The point, I think, satellite should not block the investment underway. Just to be very clear, the investments that are underway should be continued and should have also the certainty that they will not be wasted. And let's say if the push by 2030 for the core network is coming through on the 10T, we will see a lot of acceleration in investment in this year. We are already seeing, but we will see even more coming. So I think this investment should not be blocked by satellite, just to be very clear. But of course, the reflection on satellite and the opportunities, what they can bring, we should continue. And if it is what we are seeing, that for instance on heavy, where we have an investment, we can save 80,000 euro, 100,000 euro per kilometer. That's an important saving. And then we need to reflect about what will be, how will be the phasing, but without wasting the investment that we are doing now. Because we are not wanting to start a cycle of investment or huge investment that we cannot afford every 10 years or every 5 years. So this is a huge effort. So this is why I'm saying the migration plan, project management is important. We need to make these steps that are feasible so that you don't waste the money. Then if you have at the end, I don't know, when you have satellites, if you will have an antenna below and antenna on the top. And for how long you're going to run with two antennas, maybe connected with the same module. I'm simplifying, extremely simplifying. But if you get at that moment, let's say maybe it's like having 2 or 3 antennas, because some of the trains have 2 or 3 antennas below in order to be able to run and being able to talk to the different systems that we have. So might be not a major issue, might be yes, but we need to reflect on these consequences. But definitely we should not block what we are doing now, and we should not waste. That's the other point. Many of our CEO and CR are reflecting on this safeguarding. They are committing billions on this, and they are reflecting, I'm committing millions of euro on a system. I want to be, at least for the next year, safe, that this money will continue to be, obviously, run and not be wasted for a new system coming. So that's a point, is a positive point, the acceleration we are seeing on ERTMS, if it becomes true, and for this we should not stop it. But intelligently think how we are going to migrate with the new. Innovation will come also not just for satellites. I had my former president who was very much fan of AI, artificial intelligence, so he was reflecting, so let's see how we can use supercomputers, how to restart a system that collapsed, and we need to restart in a short time. So we will have other things that we need to consider, but having said that, that's a normal life. but we need to manage these things. We are responsible of a huge system.
Thanks, Alberto. When I hear you saying on the investments done, and we should not block what we are doing now, I think it's an extra element to, if you want to integrate it in the legal framework, we should do it on a smart way. And there we have working parties at ERA. It's not ERA itself who decides. We have all of you, or representatives around the table, to think with us how we can introduce it on a very smart way without impacting investments that are ongoing or investments that are already done. So maybe on that one, Carol, I would also like to ask you, we already heard today that, I think it was Germany, there is some track access fee that could be lower. Do you see other elements or other needs if we come with extra costs or upgrades for certain countries or certain lines? How do you see that?
Thank you. I take the opportunity to share with you the message of my members. So, ERTMS has a colossal impact on the cost of running stock, economic risks, and downtimes associated with bringing equipment into service. To date, the owners have not been able to identify a return on investment for the various ERTMS upgrades that have been imposed over the last 15 years. This is due in particular to the lack of added value of this equipment granted to operators in the form of a reduction in the cost of train path or other economic advantages. The amounts of subsidies granted by the Commission to date, when they are available, are not adequately sized. Either the envelopes are insufficient or the amounts granted are not commensurate with the costs associated with implementing ERTMS. So another option then to restore a better equilibrium between RU and IM, of course, is to get funding from EU Commission. But therefore we need strong commitments to give the money which is needed. What has not been the case for ERTMS until now.
Thank you, Carol. Yeah, maybe if
I fully agree with what you're saying, and we should find a way, or TEN-T, that is paying both. So, as a system, so we develop a system, TEN-T should be able to pay the infrastructure and the onboard. That could be a way. It is safer, let me say. The second way is to review the state aid guidelines. We are foreseeing very clearly in the railway state aid guidelines that not just investment on infrastructure, but also investment on onboard is 100% funded. What is the risk on the state aid? State aid has no money. It's a regulation, so member state can decide to do a yes or no, but is allowed. On TEN-T, we might have some investment also on the regulation of CEF. That will be a bit safer. But I agree that is an issue, and we need to be able to treat it as a system. So, and probably we need to find a way to pay for both.
Thank you. Maybe if I see the debate here on costs, I also look maybe to Philippe to see what can the industry do to lower prices.
Very tricky questions. I think that the harmonization of operational rules could have a very important effect if you want to reduce the cost, because today, if you look at the tendering process, there are different tenders in every country, so that is absolutely essential, and I know there's been work on this in the past, on having, for example, a template, but the harmonization of operational rules is certainly one of the most important things, plus what is going to happen in the TSI, and after that we know that there's a lot of pressure from the operators and infrastructure managers on our members to reduce the cost, so it's for them to do the job. It's difficult. But I really think that Going back to what I said, is ERA has really a key role to play in order to make sure that interoperability goes on, will be ensured at the European level, and they are doing all the efforts for this. And on this satellite topics, I think we also had the big support of EUSPA, and Daniel Lepo has been always supporting for us. But for the rest, it's a traditional debate we have when we are in the meeting. How can you reduce the cost? But up to those who are preparing the tenders to make the pressure on our members. But we have also a kind of challenges to remain profitable. That's also important for our industry.
Thank you. I think we are having time now for questions from the room. I think we already touched a lot of elements, but happy to receive questions from the room also. Can you please, your name, organization, and then the question, you have the choice of one of the panelists, or 2 or 3 or 4. No
okay,
problem.
so my name is Xavier Ricourt. I work for Multitel in Belgium. My question is for Michel. It's very basic. Do you have envisioned already the inclusion of cyber threats regarding the GNSS Dopplers in the technical TSI?
I'm so happy that I told you earlier that my technical director is in the back of the room and he's quite well capable of answering this question to you. But yes, we do actually pay a lot of attention nowadays to cybersecurity. We consider that to be really a very important topic. So we are organizing ourselves more and more on cybersecurity. As to how that goes into the, let me say, the technical details, specifications, requirements for the satellite part, the GNSS part, again, that's what you should actually ask Gabriele, then he can answer that.
Hello, my name is Gianna Se. I'm ERTMS product manager, node lead assessor and test leader. My question, during the presentations, I would say, we have been mainly talking about ERTMS satellite localization. Mr. Vincent Passot, he mentioned the use of satellites for speed determination of the train, but I think it would be, my question is that why don't you future more the speed determination of the train? Because if the train, for example, would use more and more the satellite technology for the speed determination, basically the technology would be on the train and it can be considered almost automatic to have it on board and use it for localization. It's more like for the business case for the train operators. Thank you.
To who do you ask this question?
It's a general question actually, because especially as I mentioned for the business model, why don't we talk more about the speed determination, which is a benefit for the trains? And if we have it on the train, then it will be almost automatic to use it also for speed localization.
Gabriele, can you stand up so that at least that everybody knows who to attack later on? Because I again will refer to you. Look back on the other side, and there's Gabriele Riolfi. Okay. Maybe he can say something, and it doesn't necessarily have to be now, but at least I cannot answer this question.
No. Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I didn't get it. It was about...
No, but it can also be done offline later on, Gabriela, I think.
My question is, why don't we future more the benefits of the satellite technology also for the speed determination of the train, not only for the location of the train? Because if we have it more for the speed determination of the train, then almost automatically we'll have it on the trains, and basically it can be used for the train localization. Thank you.
Sorry, can we stop that? The answer is, it is clear, and it was also on my slide, the satellite data provide both position and speed, and of course we will use both. So it's not a new idea that just popped out now during the session. This is already known and it's basic.
Other questions?
commenting. No?
Does anyone of the panel has questions to one of the other panelists?
No? Observations?
Wait.
This one, go.
Thank you. My name is Sebastian. Hello? And Sebastian Orndorf-Weiss from Swiss Federal Railway, and we're also talking a lot about the migration plan. We have been discussing earlier about the system level approach, about the architecture, and that a lot of decision needs to be made at the system level. So when we're now talking about protecting investments in rolling stock and also on the infrastructure side, I mean, we will come to the point that we say the last vehicles need to be equipped so we can reduce, for example, axle counters. Who do you see to oversee this arbitrage between rolling stock and the infrastructure side? Because today, each company is looking for their own.
Particularly, you want to answer the question?
I think this is an important question. Is partially addressed by the TEN-T proposal. When the TEN-T, there is the deadlines for deploying ERTMS and also the obligation to dismiss Class B system. It's partially addressed because it doesn't say anything about the different generation of ERTMS. So it talks about Class B system, national system, but not about this. This is a way to approach, in the sense, a CR, what is our position, because it's slightly different. A CR, what we like, and then I will reflect on this. We are saying we should have, we are very much in favor of deadlines to deploy. On this missing Class B system, our position is slightly different. We should give the right to infrastructure managers to define a date and dismiss Class B system. In defining the date, of course, you need to inform also all the railway operators that are running on your network in order to inform them. And if you have a program also to support installation of ERTMS on the vehicles, this means that you need to anticipate at least few years that you inform the market, you're going to dismiss the Class B system, and you should have a program also to support. If you go in this, I think you can manage to move in this direction. Why we are not in favor of the obligation to dismiss Class B system? Because there are some particular parts of the network, in particular Paris, where the system is used also for other purposes, and where apparently, I'm not a specialist on Paris, but I believe the people that are saying this is the system, Class B system, is used also for metropolitan transport and other vehicles, and going just on ERTMS, we reduce the capacity compared to the capacity that is there today. So we need to assess this point, but I think it's a point that we are following as CR. What we are saying today, there is no clear rule when you dismiss Class B system or you take out a system. So I don't know in Switzerland, but the rest of Europe, if somebody is saying, I do this, you will have a lot of protest. I mean, I was witness of some of them in other cases. If you say, I'm taking out the Class B system, all the old locomotive operators, maybe some of them that you want to scrap, we say, look, I don't want to lose my locomotive. And so it's a delicate point, but I think we need to reflect about a transition, which is at least long enough to provide the ways to react, and also the support. And the support in order to install the system. This will get to the same point. If you force people to install system, you never recover. Some of your members never recover the investment. What do you do? If you are the operator, you take out the trains, you lose the trains, it's very difficult. So you need to find a way. I mean, there is no proper medicine, so far I heard, but I think the two steps inform the market, provide the means, give a certain number of years in order to make the possibility to the market to go on that. It was the same for the brake systems in Switzerland. So it's not just the ERTMS. When there was introduced the brake block, new brake block, synthetic brake block on wagons, there was a bit of tensions. Switzerland started before the rest of the world, and trains cannot cross Switzerland. So in this transition, we need every time we change is a system changing, and we need to find a way that we are offering the market the possibility to react and to adapt to the new conditions. It was not a proper answer, but I know that at least you can take deadlines, long time information, and support in order to get there. I don't know if, Carol, you want to compliment, because maybe you are more sensitive. Sorry to pass the question to you, but it's...
I think that the equilibrium between infrastructure managers and rolling stock keepers deserves a debate as such, a long debate as such. It has been said previously that the pressure, the weight put on the rolling stock owners is more and more heavy, but okay, it's the case, then it requires a debate, a discussion to define new rules and to reach this new equilibrium between infra manager and rolling stock keepers. This is our position.
Maybe I just want quickly to add that in the CCS TSI now, for example, for GSMR, this mechanism is already foreseen. So meaning when FRMCS specifications will be available in next update, the infra manager can say, I will take out of service GSMR by that year, and I think the minimum is 5 or 7. It's changed somewhere, but I think it's 5 years. So that's comparable with it's a Class A system, but comparable with a Class B system. So that mechanism exists. On the other hand, in the CCS TSI, we also ask for a national implementation plan. And there we would like to see that the member state takes the infrastructure manager, their RUs, that he puts the member state level, the different parties together, and to come to an agreed, or plus minus agreed, step forwards for the next 10 to 20 years. So this is also via CCS TSI and the NIP, or National Implementation Plan, that you can try to introduce innovations or to announce innovations, and on a certain way to have a debate with the actors in your country. Maybe Bart, you also wanted to add something?
Well, actually, I was about to say something similar, because indeed I think that the CCS TSI is a good example on how you can give some certainty to the migration process into new technologies. And I think probably, again, I would like to be optimistic, and hopefully, this will, the sector will succeed in following what is stated in terms of, let's say, obligations and deadlines in the CCS TSIs. But I think it's really a good precedent that we could think about also for migration of other new technologies. And because really the migration aspect, I really would like to insist on this, because of the migration, if we don't do a proper plan for migration, we risk to fail. We will have a fantastic technologies that we will not be able to really to deploy on the ground. So it's something that, maybe, with delays of years and years, that will make, at the end of the day, this technology already obsolete by the time that is, again, ERTMS is it's an experience in that sense. So, I think that it's a good way forward that we really would like to explore even more in the future when new technology will be available. And discussions within Europe's rail also for these particular technologies on that type should also take place far earlier than when we get at the stage of discussion within air.
Okay.
I know you don't like it.
No, you should know that there is an entity ecosystem.
This is what I'm saying, and because within Europe's rail there is there is a group who is supposed to, to also to discuss about the transition and migration strategies. And within that context, what I keep on saying, by the way, it's not the first time I'm saying it, we should start thinking about migration even before we have the specific technology ready for discussion into the level play field of ERA.
I mean, just to jump in like that, because this is mentioned many times. I think jumping in on what Bardo said, for everybody to know, we're also setting up the deployment group. And this is also another important part of this discussion. We're not yet speaking of deployment manager. I think this is what Alberto was mentioning. But all of this discussion coming from the work that the system pillar will have for sure done, as was mentioned. We need to have all the actors together and really starting to think of the deployment. And I also take that Michelle's involvement is quite high, so it's also a message to you on this direction, in the sense it's not just a technical matter that we need to discuss in the system pillar, it's also a matter of making sure that those departments that will be responsible for tendering and investments are aligned and aware of what we're doing also in the system pillar.
Many thanks. I would like to close the discussion here, and a big thank you to all the panelists. Please give them a warm applause. And I'll hand over to Catherine for some practical arrangements.
Thank you to everybody, and thank you for your dedicated attention throughout the day. You've been in large numbers, stayed with us, and we have a fantastic day lined up tomorrow as well. We were approximately 200 people here, and on average 70 people online. So we thank also our online viewers who have followed us steadily throughout the day, which is a sign of interest in nowadays virtual world. So to finish the day, now we are going to be heading for the Museum del Ferrocarril de Madrid. We will stay in the dream world of rail, and please join us at 7 o'clock at the Museum of Rail. Jorge from SEDEX will be leading the walk. For those who want to walk with us, it will be a 20-minute walk, take some fresh air, the weather is nice, and then we will have some welcome ceremony by, well, very short welcome word by our directors, and we'll just have fun and stay in the museum for the evening. So thank you very much for everybody. We will meet again tomorrow. Please be on time. And remember your badge, because your badge will guarantee you access here and tonight at the museum as well. See you at the museum.